Hello, welcome to the second season of the Lynn Show. My name is Rabbi Lynn. This is a very much needed glass of wine. Hit a little traffic over there, coming back from New York City, and sat down in this seat about 3 seconds ago. So, L'chaim, thank you for coming and joining. I need this very, very desperately. Okay. Anyway, here we are. We have a great season ahead. Really amazing people that we've scheduled and lineups, and really looking forward to this. And we have a great discussion tonight about the power of speech, the power of words. And we have awesome guests. Andy Weiss will be with us first, and Daniela Greenbaum Davis is joining us in the evening after Andy speaks with us. But we really have a lot to do together as a community, and lots of things to talk about, lots of important ideas that we've solicited from you on the heels of our last season, and that we want to get to, we want to discuss in a really open and deep and insightful way. So we're looking forward to weekly evenings at the Lynn Show on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. And we'll get the lineup there online so you can see what's coming, set your calendar, and make sure to join us. And of course, to send in the questions that you'll have for our guests as we get there, okay? So the first thing is tonight's discussion is about the power of speech. And we're in obviously a major situation out there in the world of politics where the power of speech is just playing its hand, both good and bad, everywhere. What is said, what is picked apart, and everything is there. And of course, we as Jews are really supposed to be super careful about our speech. There are so many laws in the Torah itself, just dealing with speech. In fact, on Yom Kippur, when we did all of this on Yom Kippur, and you had all those things for the sin which you committed, for simply like an exorbitant percentage. I let you think there are like I think there are 44 of these, and like 18 of them or like 15 of them are actually about how we use our speech. The power of our speech. It's an amazing thing. What a percentage of all the things we can do wrong, how many of them are not just about what we say, but how many of the sins that we do wrong are actually based on the things that we're capable of saying. So we just came off the Lashon Hara, thank you. Yeah, evil speech. Okay, but tonight's show is not necessarily about evil speech per se and all the ways speech can be misused. It's actually about the power of speech that is out there. And so we are going to focus on things that are said and in the media and podcasts and how we can get our voice out there. So we're going to get right to it. I will say this though, on the heels of Yom Kippur, the most powerful prayer that we have in our liturgy is really the Kol Nidre. And the Kol Nidre prayers, even though it's solemn and the music and and like we start crying, oh my gosh, I'm terrible. But like if you actually read the libretto, the words to this, it's a word about Kol Nidre, which means all of the vows. It's like all these incredible words for vows, and that we don't have them in English. Oath, I don't know. You tell me what's the difference between an oath and a vow. I don't know. But there's an oath and a vow and konam and all these other words that we have. And we're basically standing up there on Yom Kippur night and saying, hey, God, I said things. And I'm not talking about like saying, Jim is a jerk. I'm talking about I said things that I wanted to be, that I wanted to do. I made declarations. I put things out there in the world. I used my rationale, my intellect, and my ability to project and put it out in the world. And I didn't live up to that. And before I get anywhere, I want you, God, to realize I'm a man of my word. And even though I didn't keep those words, but I'm asking for you to forgive me for those words because I take my words seriously. That's how you begin Yom Kippur. You can't go into Yom Kippur without saying, I understand the things I say matter. And what I say about myself and other people makes a huge difference. And if I use it latov, for good things, I can change the world. And if I use it for bad things, I can destroy the world. And I can destroy myself in the process or make myself great in the process. So let's get in. We have a little recap of the Chagim, of the holidays that just ended. So let's take a look at that before we bring on our first guest tonight. Okay, technical, yes, excellent. We don't have that. It says in my notes, get ready for the Chagim recap. So we have it, Chagim recap. Okay, we have Rosh Hashanah there. The time we get our head clear, Rosh Hashanah, it says the Rosh means head. We get our head clear, and we're going into the new year with a blueprint of who we're supposed to be. What kind of dip the apple in the honey? Great. We have the shofar. Shofar is the cry of the soul, breaking through the barriers, that primal scream that we have when we cry to the heavens, dipping apples in the honey, of course, which is an apple can be both sweet and sour, tart or not. You put it in the honey, every person can go one way or the other, right or wrong, good or bad, and yet we're going to get there, right? So we make the honey for the year should be sweet. And of course, we go from Yom Kippur into our Sukkah, where, by the way, we had unbelievable weather this year, at least in Pennsylvania and in New York, and we were able to sleep in the Sukkah every night of the holiday for 7 days. An awesome place to go. And the amazing thing about Sukkot for us is that, the world right now, the entire world right now is unsure of everything, anything, everything. No one knows what tomorrow will bring. No one knows anything. We don't know if our 401ks are going to last. We don't know if our homes, we don't, schools, jobs, livelihood, we don't know anything. But every year for 7 days, the Jew goes into the sukkah and says, you know something? My home with its insurance policy and its mortgage and everything I own is temporary. Everything in the world is temporary. So we're going to live in a temporary hut. First of all, to show that we recognize everything is temporary. God can give, He can take away everything we have. And we're going to live under the most flimsy of protections on the top there called schach, because if God wants us protected, we're protected. And we live there with that faith and that security. And we basically say we know that everything we think will be there tomorrow might not be. So we're actually trained for coronavirus, because we know the world is not necessarily going to be tomorrow what we expect it to be. The sun will likely rise, but nothing else that we held as sacred or standard or expected will actually be there. And we have to be simcha, happy and joyous. It's the happiest time. We say, Zman Simcha Seinu, it's the happiest time of the year. Why? Because you realize you don't need anything. And what comes at the very end of this? A holiday called Shmini Atzeret, a separate holiday into itself. I think that's Hoshana Rabbah for all the waters that we have on Sukkot. The waters of the world are judged, and the water is a source of life. And we always liken the Torah, the wisdom that we have, to the refreshing element of what water is and the rejuvenating element of water. And then we go into Shmini Atzeret, which is a day just us and God alone, totally private audience with the Almighty, to look back on everything we've done, everything we've promised, everything we've become, and what our response is when we're invited by the Almighty to a private banquet, a private audience, is Simchat Torah, where we take this love lesson, this love note that the Almighty gave us, this Torah, which He gave us 3,380 years ago at Mount Sinai, and we have kept and cherished and we've loved, and we dance and we sing with it, and we celebrate so that we feel the essence of what it means to embrace who we are as Jews, our ideology, our methodology, our history, our essence, to dance and sing and love it up. Okay, that's what we just came through. Now let's get into the meat of the evening. And our first guest tonight is a wonderful young man living in New York City, and someone that I've had the privilege of traveling to Poland with, of all places. And we've gotten to know each other over the years. And we're going to speak about the power of speech. He has a podcast, Andy Weiss, called Rising Titans. And it is a great pleasure for me to welcome Andy to the show. And we can get right. Hey, Andy, how you doing?
What's up? I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thanks for being here. Any chance I get to talk to you and hang out with you is always a plus.
This is nice. This is great production, by the way.
Okay. Listen, it's really great production. I sat in my seat 30 seconds before it was live on air. Okay. This was not simple. Okay. So listen, when you're not figuring out how to communicate with the world out there, you are a commercial mortgage broker, and but you're also a fitness guru. And so you're doing lots of running and training. And whenever I have to flip through my social media, there's always a very lovely picture of you doing what I should be doing, which is sweating and exercising and working out. And you have been extremely active for on behalf of the Crohn's Colitis foundations, raising money for Crohn's and colitis, and really have used your natural leadership abilities to galvanize lots of people to support it, and through your fitness and through the marathons and through the events and things like that. It's really like remarkable to see your work. It really is. And of course, you're a man around town in the Jewish circles, so you know the young Jewish scene. So tonight we want to talk about your podcast, and really, I think the voice that you're finding through it, and why. So let's start just with the first thing is like, well, what is your podcast, and what is it about, and who are you trying to reach?
Sure. It's really for me. I've been thinking about it for a few years now, and even before I moved into real estate, a lot of my guests tend to be in real estate, but really it's industry agnostic, and it's just having interesting conversations with people who are coming up in their careers, and kind of just diving into what is helping to propel them to success, right? Like, what's the process like of becoming successful? And really, I think for me, the goal is to kind of help them tell their story and have other people who are listening to it relate and be like, wow, these are the things that I struggle with. I worked out of college. I worked at a large accounting firm, and I had a great experience there. But it was very much incumbent upon me to find the right resources to kind of motivate me and show me, how to even change careers. And so I think learning how life and career are not always a straight line. Things aren't as linear as people would think. And really that it's not easy to become successful in life, and also even to turn that on it, kind of what the connotation of success is. Like, what is success, right? Like, success is enjoying your life daily, finding your vocation, your calling. So it really delves in, and some people who are guests are good personal friends, and we've had some very deep conversations there, and it's nice to share that with the world.
Now, okay, it's one thing to have ideas and you go out for coffee, you talk to them. What motivated you to publicly create a conversation which is based around really your voice, in a sense? You feel like you're going to curate the conversations in a way that, obviously, as you said, you feel it could be really beneficial. But give us, like, what was the process behind going from the potential, just the ideas in your head, to the actual, like, wow, I got to get this out and I got to do it.
Well, so I'd say that I've had the desire to, let's say, put it out there, and it was more just like nothing was like pushing me off the ledge to just finally do it. And when COVID came around, I'm sitting at home. My business, like many others, was pretty shot for a couple of months, and I just had this realization. It's just like you got to keep jumping in life. Like, you have to constantly push yourself to learn new things, and I think sometimes people get that people, and by people I mean myself, and I'm obviously extrapolating here, but I think other people struggle with it as well, is breaking down the process, right? So in my mind, my expertise, let's say, is moderating an interview, much like yourself. I don't know if I'm as good, but I'm taking a few pointers away here.
Green screen. Anyway, okay.
Green screen. Yeah. Producer. No. But and for me, like, even thinking about, like, oh, how do I put this on the internet? It was something I didn't even want to look into. But finally, I had a few friends who had put together podcasts. I just started asking them questions about it, and it turns out it's very easy to put on a podcast. Anyone can do it. You literally record yourself on Zoom, and there's literally this website called Anchor.fm. There's a variety of them, and they distribute podcasts, like, for free. And they monetize on a certain portion of podcasts that actually are able to monetize, but it's a free, easy to use platform where you just literally upload. And I didn't really, at that point, it was just like, let me just do it. I didn't think so much like, oh, should I, like, what's the sound quality like this? That. I was like, just put it out there, like, see how it goes.
You have, like, of the 13 episodes that you've done, you have hundreds of people who tune in and listen to it, and you're saying, it's very easy. The truth is, the beauty of the opportunity today in technology makes it very easy. But when you and I were speaking, you said something I just want to drill down on with you, which was like, there's COVID, and there's the isolation, and there is the just the reconfiguration of everything that we assume is normal, and then it's like not next day. And you said something to me that's very powerful I want to talk about. You said like just the opportunity to really be authentic. Like it just affords a person, because I want to inspire other people to do this. I think everyone should have a podcast where they're finding their voice and they're saying something. But you mentioned that you just felt that it was such an opportunity to be authentic and find a platform to talk about the things that move you and find resonance with other people. So I'd love you just to talk about what the experience has done for you in terms of actually putting your ideas, what moves you, your talents out there for others to enjoy and to share.
Sure. I mean, I guess I would kind of preface it where I think that it's a little natural sometimes to have hesitancy to share yourself, because people don't like to be vulnerable naturally. Like when you put yourself out there, you kind of remove this layer and facade of that you show to society, and you open yourself up, and it hurts to be rejected, right? But when you're rejected, like let's say I make a cold call to someone and they hang up on me, it doesn't hurt so much because I don't know that person. I don't have a relationship with that person. But when you put yourself out there and your friends start saying like, that was like mediocre, like you get negative feedback, a lot of people shy away from that, and even thinking about that feeling gives them anxiety. And I go through this as well. I imagine every single person from myself to all the way at the top, like The Rock, right? Like most followers in America. I'm sure he's uncomfortable at times sharing certain things.
Right.
But it's kind of a muscle that I feel like I've worked on building over the years. And I think there's for me it feels good to like just share yourself, and I think people generally are in a better position when people around them are just sharing who they are more. You connect and you build deeper relationships with people. But also I think there is something to be said about we're all impressionable by media, and so your media is going to make an impression on me, and vice versa. And I think to be conscious of like how much media are you consuming and how much are you putting in, right? And what kind of voice are you giving yourself in the world? Because people, you could shun social media and the internet, but at the end of the day, like it's extremely influential, and so to me it's like it's almost like the social contract of America in a sense, right? Like there's a social media.
Right. That's fantastic. Meaning you're saying, we're subsuming so much, but you have to contribute to it as well. And
I think so. And I think it adds value to your experience as well, because sometimes you just get lost, and I will say I think people sometimes that I won't go into that, but yeah.
I want people to come away from this. Andy. I mean, you're a great guy, and I love you a lot. But like, everybody who watches this can do this, and I think it's a valuable experience to be able to compose your thoughts, what interests you, to focus them, to develop them, to develop the ideas, and to share those things is a very big part, an opportunity here to be able to do that. And you're right, coronavirus is a time for us to actually try and find new ways to tap in to ourselves and to communicate and to connect. And I think you've done a marvelous job at it. You're taking something you're good at, you're interested in, and that interest is infectious, right? And it's a beautiful thing.
Likewise with this. And ultimately, I really do think it's like when you start to learn how to open up more in those settings, it helps you even interpersonally. I think like where you're more comfortable just sharing of yourself with the people who you care about on a deep level. So just learning. I think the moral to me is this: like the podcast is just a platform, right? Like it's just like any other media.
Right.
It's just, like this is a podcast as well, right? You could stream this up, but to me, it's the idea of sharing what you want to share in the world through whatever platform makes you happy. If it's one-on-one in a coffee shop, great. If it's on this lovely produced show, also great.
Andy, it's first of all, make sure you listen to Andy's podcast and learn how to better your career, and make sure you're in the right career, okay? And listen to all the great people that he talks about, and they'll talk about him also and the great choices that he makes and the great things that you do, Andy, for your charities and the things you care about and you love. And yeah, and if you said to yourself like, okay, fine, I'm going to do it, make sure you send me or Andy a note saying like, thanks for the show, and I'm doing a podcast. I'm getting my ideas out there because you guys. Anyway,
Yes.
thank you for joining us and giving us that little bit of inspiration. Okay, let's go find his podcast and join up and enjoy what he's got to offer.
Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you. Okay, great. Like it's when I'm speaking with him, it's like it's cathartic in a sense. You have something to say and you can be out there and people are really genuine. People are much more genuine these days than they were before these days. So let's take advantage of that and don't be afraid and be out there and speak your mind and find a very new and what could be very powerful voice. Now, I want to move to our next guest for the evening, and her name is Daniela Greenbaum Davis, and she is, there is Daniela Greenbaum Davis and Nellie holding the Emmy that was won for her work, the shows of The View. It was won for The View, and of course would not have been what it was without Daniela's input, as she is a producer for the show as well. And it's really awesome to have her here. And she and I have known each other for many years, and I have had the great privilege of knowing her husband for many, many years. Okay, that was the Davis part of the Greenbaum Davis, but it's really wonderful to have you here, Daniela, and share with us your insights into this crazy world of The Voice. This is it.
Hi, Lynn. Great to be with you.
How you doing?
Thank God. Can't complain.
They have Nellie like on your lap for this.
I wish. She's asleep. But if you hear her start crying, then I may have to vacate. So
there should be someone there that I know who could look after her while we're talking for the next 10 minutes.
One would think.
Yes. Anyway, so people should know that Daniela, besides being a freelance journalist for a number of years, everything from the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the New York Post, of course, the Forward, the Jewish Forward, right? Okay, the Forward as well, having always been really a very strong and eloquent and amazing voice out there before you've been nabbed by primetime. Is it primetime? Is the View
prime? 11 a.m. But that's primetime for some people.
I don't know. In 2020, I don't know what primetime is. So but you now are a producer, one of the producers of the show, and that's your gig. And I really can't, when we thought about this idea of like the first topic we want to start the season with and the power of what we say and what we do and what's out there. So I really felt like, okay, yeah, it's a home run to be able to get you to join us. So thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us just a little bit about how you came to your position and how long you've been there and how you found it so far?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, I kind of was always writing freelance. I started off as an editor at Commentary and wrote for them, and then freelance for the Journal, the Times, the Post, like kind of whoever would have me. And then I had a column at Business Insider. That didn't work out so well. I'll spare you the details.
I know the details.
And then I started at The View as a producer, which is so fun. It's my first time working in television, so it's a very different muscle to flex. But it's been great. And I was only there a couple of months before I was now there from home. So
right.
It's,
that's actually very interesting. What is that different muscle? Like, what's can you?
Sure. Well, writing is a very solitary gig. You have a relationship with an editor, but kind of ultimately it's just you. You're deciding what to write, what not to write, and how to say what you want to say. And producing is like a really big team sport. There's so many people that work on making a show what it is, from someone who does makeup to the executive producer to someone who's working the physical camera. Like there's just so many different pieces that go into making the show, and obviously the hosts. So yeah, it's a different kind of work process.
Right. Now, when we were talking about this, you said something which was really like it hit me like a ton of bricks. We're talking about like, okay, a person's voice. And what do you say? You have the power of media. I mean, you really do. I mean, this is a serious platform, Daniela, right? Where ideas are really put out there. and you said something to me like the first step, was not what anyone else would think. And maybe you could speak to that. You said that it's not deciding what you're going to say is half the battle. There's another half to that, which I found to be very, very remarkable. If you could speak to that, it'd be great.
Yeah, I think especially when you kind of have like a limited amount of time to say something, which is true whether you're constricted by, okay, the length of your column can be, 800 words, or you have one column a week, or even if you have a column every day, you can't write about every single subject. And especially in like today's world when there's just so much news every minute, you're really picking not so much what you're going to speak about, but saying what statement are you saying with what I'm not going to be writing about. And for me, like that was always almost the harder decision than choosing what to focus on, because it was like, okay, maybe I'm not so interested in this, or maybe I don't think I have an interesting angle here, but what am I saying by not focusing on these stories? And, why is it that I'm drawn to this particular story? News is cyclical, so maybe you feel like you're writing the same thing over and over again. Are you, or is it just that, you have new updated things to say about a story that fits into a familiar pattern? So I think it's very hard to think about like what you're not going to focus on.
Right, and it's very consequential for you. I mean, it's a major viewership, and it's major attention paid to the show, which is right up your alley. Having known you as long as I've known you, where it's a place, it's a forum of ideas, and the whole spectrum of ideas that are really fueling the country today. You obviously have in your literary career been very vocal about your more conservative, let's call it, views on things, and certainly pro-Israel stance. How have you found that, being as a member of a show which is really about the grand spectrum of ideas out there? How have you found that? How has it found your voice through that show?
Well, one of the things I really love about working there is, obviously the show is famous for bringing women together of, different ages, different stages in life, different political outlook. And what's great is just to see a platform where that works, and to see people engaging from different perspectives and actually talking to each other and thinking about things in new ways. I know, often when I was writing, like I was very much aware that, if I had repeat clicks, like let's say from people who had viewed other articles, you're getting the same readers who probably already agree with you and who kind of just like are coming back to hear your take on what they think about a new updated issue. And it's really a pleasure to be able to work in an environment where we're actually showcasing people disagreeing and doing so, civilly.
And you gave me two beautiful insights into me. When someone turns on the show, they're seeing like, you expect the boxing gloves to come out, the bell to ring, and yet the beauty of the show is that there is a forum for ideas, and it can get contentious, and it can and it can get it's a real deal because it's fueling everybody's hypersensitivity today. Yet there's somehow a common bond that you found in the show. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's such a great example for people engaging, through all walks of life and different disagreements.
Right. And where do you see like disagreement? Why are you so comfortable, so good at dealing with contentious issues, and you really do have an ability to hear both sides of things. You've always displayed that. You described that came from an educational, education that you had growing up, right? So how does that factor in? What was the great contributing factor to your?
Yeah, I wrote a piece for the Washington Post on this about the Talmud, and how I think like learning Gemara as a kid really teaches you how to argue constructively and also how to listen constructively. So I always remembered in class, like we would always talk about how like, let's say Rabbi A would throw out this crazy idea and Rabbi B would say like, that's insane. But then instead of explaining why it's crazy, the second rabbi would like, scratch the air with the other hand, trying to come up with the crazy scenario in which the idea he doesn't support could actually make sense. And it's just a great reminder that like your first instinct when you hear someone say something you don't agree with shouldn't be, how can I make them feel stupid? How can I prove them wrong? But should be, how can I reorient my thinking to understand why they might be right and I might be wrong? And so I feel like I got a great education in that kind of thought process, and just sort of that kind of civil debate through learning Talmud. And I don't think you have to be Jewish, or you have to be from, or even you have to care about like the substance of what's going on in the Talmud to get that value from learning it. And I think it's worth doing even on a secular level.
Right. I remember there's an amazing thing, the Talmud will come across a question and it will say, this is the question in front of us. This is the wrong answer, but let's entertain it. And it will go for a page.
Exactly.
That's right. And the amazing thing I remember when it's clicked for me also is that when you know why the wrong answer is wrong, you actually know far more about the right answer than you would have known if you just went to the right answer. Right? How it plays up against all the other options is a very deep insight. And I think also something really gorgeous about it is that, there's a Yiddish expression, which means like you don't die from not being able to resolve the problem.
Yeah.
You don't die from it. There's actually like, okay, you move on and you can go. And the idea is you can come back to, and sort of the beauty of that education really is that you're hyper leaking everything that you learn and you uncover with so much of your own experience as you go through it, that not that it diminishes the impact and the consequence of the idea, because the ideas are super important, but it really just creates a broad ability to comprehend and appreciate the other sides, which is also part of just really understanding the truth of any issue that you're facing.
Yeah, 100%.
Now we have some questions that, of course, people submit. So I'm going to bring Bianca on in just a few moments to ask those questions.
Great.
From some of our viewers. But before that, just I want you to speak like during Corona, like it's a hard time for everyone. I would just love a little bit of maybe some insight from you or some advice from you, someone who is in the public sphere and has a lot of experience expressing yourself, what you think people who are in this stage, could think about maybe that might give them, more room to express themselves and to grow.
Yeah. I will say this is very hard for me to do personally and professionally, but I think the more unplugging people can do, the better. I think, we're going to be dealing with the repercussions of Corona. We're going to be dealing with, live new challenges with Corona for a really long time, and it's exhausting and it's draining, and the updates are constant, not to mention the political fallout. And there's not as much distraction that we can seek out because, who's going to all sorts of social gatherings right now? So I think unplugging is wise. I try to do it as often as I can. The Chagim were so rejuvenating for me, and I said to my mother, who I was lucky to be with, I was like, as a child, I hated a 3-day yontif. Like, it never ended. Like, I wish we had like a 5-day yontif this year. That would have been prime.
Right. It was nice coming back. It's like, I didn't want to turn my phone on. I'm like, is the world in one piece? If it is, then I can wait to find out the details.
Exactly.
Okay, so I want to bring Bianca on. We have a few questions from some of our viewers and friends here. Hello, Bianca.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. Wait, Daniel, I have to say I was very excited that I get to see you, even if it's like through a third party.
It's been a long time.
Oh my gosh, we get to speak.
Yeah. Hope you're doing well.
So good. Yeah, good. Thank God. Honestly. No.
Okay, Bianca, what do you have for us?
So I actually have 3 very, very interesting questions. I found them brilliant that people submitted this week when they heard that you're on the show. First one was actually really, well, I find it very interesting. In a time of intense polarization, how do you really know, or how can you know as a writer that you're not writing fake news or showing really one side? Is there such a thing as non-fake news? Like, is there nuanced news?
Yeah.
And added to that question, really, they put like a subsequent, which was, how do you sell non-fake news in such a polarized world in which really fake news or polarized news or really extremes is what sells?
This is something I think like every news organization in the world is dealing with. So I agree. It's a great question. I'm not sure I'm going to have a great answer. I think the problem that you see is like, when I was writing a column, there'd be certain editors who'd make it clear to me, like, I don't care how many people click on this story. What I care about is that like we're covering the issues in a good way. And then there'd be editors who are like, all that matters is the clicks. And what are we doing with the like SEO headline stuff? Like, how are we, sensationalizing this so that people are going to click on it. And you really do have two very different strands of thinking, and both have validity, because the people who want the clicks, some of them are just, like money whores who want the advertising dollars. But there are other people who want the clicks because they want to be informing more readers. And so there's this careful dance of how can you entice people to actually click on a story that will educate them. But how do you make it so that once they get there, it's actually substance that's substantive and meaningful and nuanced and thoughtful? It's a very hard balance. I'm not confident that we're striking it right now. I sort of like to think I was a little insulated from this when I was writing, because I was always doing editorialized, like, opinion content. So it was always clear from the get-go that, like, you were going to get one perspective from me. And, I always tried to do my best to represent the other side and to present, nuance in my thinking, but you were always going to get an argument from me. So in that sense, it's, a little less need to be sensational. You don't need to be first to react to a new story. You can take the time to think about it and present the arguments. But I think on the news side, it's a really challenging problem.
So I'm sorry, but I'm going to add a subsequent to that I'm very curious what you just said, which is, writers are humans. So writers are also subject to information bias, right? So how do writers kind of keep it balanced for themselves to make sure that when they're portraying something, in your case, you were writing opinion. So like you said, we want to hear your opinion. People that read you because they like your voice and they want to hear what you have to say. But when it comes to writing, how do writers keep it kind of, at least that they know that they're showing only one side when the information we're getting is so biased from every direction? Yeah.
So my first experience doing editorial journalism was at the Wall Street Journal. And like their whole thing about the op-ed page is that it's very data driven. So even though you're getting opinion, you're also getting fact in every sentence. You're also getting a statistic, a poll, research. It's not just like, I woke up today and I think X. And so I think I try to do that a lot in my writing. I definitely took lessons I learned there with me, especially that. So if I'm writing an op-ed piece, I don't want it to be a diatribe or rant about why I think what I think, but like, how can I back up what I'm trying to say? But in terms of balance, I mean, the other part of that question is like, not every story has two sides, right? Some stories have one side, some stories have 8 sides. And it's like, how can we portray that in a way where we're getting to the truth, but getting to there honestly and not necessarily worrying about like, are we portraying it fairly or are we portraying it honestly? I think those are different questions often, and that's a careful balance.
Okay, cool.
All right, I could just get got a note saying, ask her what news source she recommends going to for objective. You don't have to answer this, but that's what people want to know. Where do you go if you don't have to tell anybody? You can't do it on a live show. But people ask you, two people say, well, where do I go actually for the most balanced approach?
So I'll be really honest, and I hope like I'm not blacklisted from every publication ever that I want to write for saying this, but I don't think there is one place to go. So I read like 9 sites a day. If I read something that seems like really outrageous, I always go to like the most extreme other side of the argument. So if I read something like on The Intercept, I'll go to like a really right-wing site to read the other argument. And if I read something on a really right-wing site, I'll hop on a really left-wing site. So I don't have one source. I just try to read everything.
Great. Okay, Bianca, let's get one more question before I have to wrap up here.
Yeah, so the last question is actually, especially today with what we are seeing in the news, I think it's super relevant. Someone asked you if you feel any personal responsibility as a Jew over the stories that you choose to write or the truth that you choose to portray.
Yeah, so I think about this a lot in terms of what Rabbi Lynn and I were discussing earlier about the stories you choose not to focus on. Mm-hmm. So, I'll get emails from certain extended members of my family saying, I saw you wrote a column about, I don't know, the deficit this week. Why didn't you talk about what happened in Israel? So I think that's probably true also of people who come from a family of cooks and they're not writing about enough culinary pieces, and people who come from a family of, religious Catholics and they're not writing about enough Catholic issues. So I think that's a something we all struggle with, how much we're like bringing our background into, you know, what we're writing about. I think by nature, a lot of the places I've worked, I've been, you know, one of the go-to people on Middle Eastern politics, just because obviously I have like a really strong foundation in that. So sometimes I try to focus on it, but, you know, I also try to balance, like, is this a story that's important to me, Daniela, as a Jew right now? Or is this a story that's front page news that I need to comment on, like, universally? And which hat am I wearing when I'm writing that? Who am I trying to speak to? Not every piece has to have a universal audience. So if I'm writing a piece for Jewish media, you know, you can get a lot more zoomed in. It can be a lot more inside baseball. If you're writing a piece for kind of the broader American audience, they're not going to be necessarily as interested in sort of the micro nuances of what's going on in the inner circle of Israeli politics. So it just kind of depends on the audience.
Great.
Thanks.
Bianca, thanks for fielding those questions
Bye.
for us. If anyone has any
Really
other
fun.
questions, of course, you can go to us on Instagram for some follow-up questions, and we're happy to forward them, or on Facebook here, or however you're seeing it. We'll collect them all for sure. Thank you, Bianca. Thanks for coming on and sharing, as always.
Bye,
And,
guys. Thank you.
And Daniela, it's thank you for joining us. You know, I think that it's really amazing to see someone who's actually found their stride so well. I'm sure as a little girl, you also weren't shy, and you had good opinions. And I've been to your home for Shabbat, so I know the good stock you come from.
Well, thank you.
It really is amazing to see you be able to express yourself so well, and now to be able to see you express yourself in such a powerful way. And it's you know, it's like, you know, we feel we get a lot of nachas from you for sure.
Well, thank you.
And in this world where people really should have a voice and should be able to say something and to be able to be out there, you know, you've had a lot of blessing that you've had success in your career and that you have the ability to do that. I know that you take it so seriously, and you take the responsibility of what you say and who listens so seriously. And that's really what, if I could drill down on one thing, you know, that's really what's remarkable. The conversation that you and I have always had about that, about really the privilege on the one hand. And yes, people get swept up with just the opportunity and maybe the fame and the awards that come with it. But really, there's a deep sense, and it's a tribute to your parents as well.
Well, I think, you know, it's the same conversation I'm sure you have with yourself all the time, because people listen to what you say. And I'm sure it's a constant struggle weighing, like, what message do I need to give today and what message do I not need to give today?
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. You know, when we're starting reading the Torah portion, Bereshit, the beginning, this week, and everything God does, he does with speech. He speaks in the world exists.
When I'm snapping at Bobby, that's what he tells me. So
when you what?
When I snap at Bobby, he says, "Be careful with speech. God created the world with speech."
For him, he probably does. Whatever he's saying is probably good. You know, it's landing in the right place.
Exactly.
Right? But the Almighty teaches us. We're taught a lesson in the Torah. It's not like God got up in the morning and like gargled and spoke. It's the anthropomorphism of the power of speech and the impact it can have, and the creative component behind it. It's beautiful to see you use it really well, Daniela.
Thank
really
you.
Great. I appreciate you coming and sharing with those insights. Really great stuff with us tonight. And thanks for joining. Anyone have any further follow-up questions for Daniela Greenbaum Davis? She can put it there on the chat down here, over there, or that place over there, or the Instagram over there. We'll find it and we'll get it to her. Okay. Thank you very much, Daniela. Good to see you. Thanks. Okay. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week at 8 p.m. Same bat time, same bat channel. I think that's how they call it in the 70s. And we have a whole season ahead of really great people from our community, for our community, and we would love to have you join us, share it, click it, like it, all the good stuff there. And would you have ideas for us, send them, because all we want to do is be a voice, a platform for the things that you all want to talk about. And we are inviting you to make sure you come to our website, moremanhattan.org, and see all the programs we have, including Rabbi Mendy's new program, The Journey with the Prophets in the Morning. Okay, the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls. If you know that tune right now, if you know it, I'm proud of you. If you don't know that line, look it up. The words of the prophets are written on the subway walls. But short of getting on a subway, you can go to Rabbi Mendy's class in the morning. And next week, we will be here live, same time, same place, for the gift of time. People who devote time in their life for good deeds. It's one thing to give money. It's another thing to give time. And we'll be drilling down and focusing on that. Wishing everyone a good week. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you very soon. Bye-bye. Good night.
Here we go now.